Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, election cha-ching. Also, the V-Team takes a look at covering a tragedy. And the Georgia lottery turns 25. What do we get?
You're here because you got nothing. You got nothing in court. You don't got the bookkeeper. You got nothing. Nothing.
That's right. Nothing. Zip. Zilch. Nada. Goose eggs. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good to see you, Jack. We had the first campaign reports for the runoff. Not a whole lot of big news, but some significant news. One of the things, Jack, that we saw is that the BCA Progress PAC only raised less than $20,000 in the first week after the runoff. That's pretty tepid response from its members.
Well, I think they are now seeing the results of their strife over there.
Yeah.
People don't want to invest. People might be aggravated for the huge dollar amounts they've given to certain candidates. And how they are doing things like, we'll support you if you will support the gas tax.
Yeah.
There's a lot of heavy-handed stuff going on over there. And I think, and with the major guys pulling out,
yeah,
it's going to have an effect on.
Sure, absolutely. You know, what the big two campaigns, Charlie, they gave to Attorney General Steve Marshall and then Twinkle Kavanaugh, $50,000 each. And that's really, Susan, that's pretty much it, except for one $1,500 contribution.
Yeah, they've kind of slacked down on their what they're donating right now, which is understandable. They kind of need to see where the ship's going to right. But interesting that those were two strong donations in a time where they're not receiving a lot of contributions and not giving a lot out.
Well, they have $600,000 still on hand. That's significant, Jack.
In their PAC.
In their PAC.
Yeah, that's a stout amount.
Yeah.
You can do some damage.
Yeah, you can. They obviously haven't decided where the damage is going to be.
Normally give to people that I don't support, but that's all right.
Well, you know,
not always.
It's interesting. I mean, you know, we have Will Ainsworth on later, and we have Twinkle on later in the month, or next month. But they really have given a bunch of money to Twinkle Kavanaugh, and they've not given any. They won't give Will Ainsworth the time of day. So,
no,
but that's
they've
just,
pretty much made their choice
yeah,
in that category.
That's
so.
pretty much it. One of the interesting things, Susan, last week they celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Georgia State Lottery, which they have put some $3 billion into educating the children of Georgia, and some of that money came from here, and after 25 years, we don't have diddly squat, as they say.
No, I can tell you how many friends and neighbors and whatever drive to Georgia all the time to buy lottery tickets, not only just for them, but for their collective friends, people they work with. Everybody gives them $20, you know, go buy me some lottery tickets. We're paying for Georgia children to be educated. Meanwhile, our children barely have standing buildings that we can send them to school in.
Destroyed textbooks.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Well, Charlie, while you bring that up, one of the things that was very interesting, we talked to Governor Kay Ivey's office this week, and she said she's willing to let the people vote, or thinks the people should have the ability to vote on a constitutional amendment that would allow a lottery.
The people should absolutely have a right to vote, and I think this is coming a little bit later than it should have, but I'm glad something's finally being said about it.
Jack, how seriously should we take Governor Kay Ivey on that?
You know, I don't know. You know, Kay's a good old First Baptist Church in Montgomery person.
Yeah.
And, but you never go wrong by saying you'll allow the people to vote. Now, Bentley in 2010, when he was a candidate, well, actually in 29, when I was helping him, we were talking about issues to do for the website. He said he would not fight a state lottery if the legislature brought him a bill that allowed the people to vote. But it never got that far because they knew he really wouldn't support it. And I'm just, you know, I hope the governor is serious
But
about
I think
it.
now that we have Walt Maddox also saying that he has a definite plan for the lottery, that it's going to put a little bit more fire under her to do something about it.
If she's really serious and if she really wants to take this issue out of Walt Maddox's hand, she'll call a special session. My understanding is if the bill is decided on, passes the legislature, it doesn't have to have the vote of the governor because it's a CA. As long as if she called a special session, they got it through the legislature, by August 8th, it could be on the November ballot.
Well, and Jack, wouldn't that be a good thing? I mean, it's going to be a low turnout vote. I mean, that'll bring people to the polls.
Well, you'll have a lot of ticked off legislators who probably won't vote for a lottery during an election year.
Yeah.
Because, and I think a lot of these lawmakers have read it wrong about the general public. I believe every poll that I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years says that 60 to 70% of the people want the right to vote on
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
The thing is, they're not voting on their agreement with a lottery. They're voting on the people of Alabama's right to vote on a lottery. There's a big difference in that.
Well, and one of the things that's so disingenuous, I talked to one of my Christian friends who, you know, is very adamant against gambling. And I looked at him, I said, we have gambling in the state of Alabama, Charlie. It's called Porch Creek Indians. They don't pay a dime in taxes. They don't contribute to the education. They don't contribute to the overall health of the state. A lottery would. Am I wrong in those?
You are not wrong at all. You are absolutely spot on.
So,
But I will say the Porch Creeks, where their facilities are, they've done a lot of philanthropic things for the counties where their facilities
And they have, but the rest of the
but-
state.
Yeah, but
What
I know
about the
when
rest
they're-
of the
they're
state?
not, yeah, you're exactly right.
But give the people the right to vote on the rest of us being able to have the same opportunities that the Porch Creek have with their facilities.
right.
Oh, I'm in full agreement with
And
that.
I think that Phil being anthropic is a good idea.
You probably do. No, but I mean, let's give them their due. They have.
They
they're doing
have done
a
some
great
good stuff.
job.
You give me $1 billion in tax-free money, baby, and
I'll
pave
give the hell out of
road.
money to a charity.
Let me make a point
I'll be
right
the most
here.
charitable guy in the state.
One thing they do, and with the Porch Creek, is they have facilities, if people have gambling problems, that where they're with the tribe, that they can go and take advantage of those facilities. The rest of the Alabamians do not. If they have a gambling problem, they can go to Georgia, they can go to, you know, Atmore, they can go to Wetumpka, they can go to Mississippi, but but Alabama does not provide the same sort of services. So while we still have a problem, nobody's addressing that. So if we get a lottery where we can address this, I think that really has.
You know, I think Walt Maddox has a chance of competing very well with Kay Ivey, and I think, Jack, like we've seen, 65–70% of the people of Alabama want to vote, and 25%, only 25% of the Republican base is against it.
Oh, I know. I know.
mean,
That's
you
a
know.
total misnomer that Republicans are anti-gambling. I don't think they are.
They are not. They are not.
And I've seen a lot of people on social media swinging more towards Walt, saying that they trust his plan a lot more than.
Well, listen, I mean, she's only got a small window. Let's see if she takes that opportunity. I think it'd be wise, but hey, they don't listen to me. We're gonna leave it right there. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Coming up next, Lieutenant Governor hopeful Will Ainsworth. We'll be right back.
Two-thirds of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Autism has touched the lives of so many here in Alabama. It's why State Senator Tom Whatley stood up to the special interests and sponsored the bill requiring insurance plans to provide autism therapy to those in need. because Tom Watley knows this therapy can and does change lives. And Watley was recently recognized by the Autism Society of Alabama for his work helping the autism community. Putting people before politics. Tom Watley.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. We're joined today by Will Ainsworth. He's running for lieutenant governor. Will, thank you for joining us.
Oh, great to be on the show.
You know, I've known you long enough, I feel like I can call you Will.
Absolutely.
This is your first run for statewide office. You have served in the State House for 4 years. Tell us why you're running for lieutenant governor and why voting for you matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. Great to be on the show. You know, I decided to run for lieutenant governor, really the same reason I decided to run for the House and go into youth ministry. I think you've got one life to make a difference while you're here on earth. Kendall and I, which is my wife, you know, we believe in service and decided that, you know, after the last 4 years, just the lack of vision and leadership in this state and people serve with integrity, we decided to put ourselves forward and, you know, been overwhelmed by the response. You know, we were kind of the underdog in this race. Not a lot of people gave us a chance to get in the runoff. We overperformed, and the places where people knew us, we did well in our home county, over 72%. And, you know, we're excited about the momentum we've got and look forward to hopefully serving the people of Alabama.
You have an agenda. We've heard it, but I'd like for you to articulate it for us. You know, what are the top 3 things that you think you can bring to the lieutenant governor's office to push in the state of Alabama to make it better?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think first is certainly integrity. You know, I'm tired of all the distractions that have happened in Alabama. You know, when we talk to people that come into the state, you know, they know about the distractions. They know about Governor Bentley. They know about Speaker Hubbard. And it's time to have elected officials that can make us proud. I want to make sure I make you proud, make the people of Alabama proud, honor my family, and then also honor God with the way I serve. So our first priority is just to serve with integrity. In the same way people in Alabama are successful, work hard, treat people right, and have integrity. We're going to do that every day. Second thing is education. I've got a passion for education. I've got kids that go to public schools. Right. That's a big difference between myself and my opponent. And, you know, I've got a passion for education. Really, 3 things we want to do in education. First is, you know, if our kids in Alabama are going to compete with the United States and the rest of the world, they've got to have access and availability to technology. And what's sad, a lot of parts of our state do not. We don't have broadband access everywhere. And even in our schools, there's some school systems that 15 to 20 kids are sharing a desktop that's older than the students. Wow. And so how are those kids going to compete in a 21st century economy? The answer is they're not. And so I want to make sure all kids, no matter where they live in our state, have access to technology where they compete in a 21st century economy. The second thing, my wife was involved in the Even Start pre-K program in Marshall County, and she has a tremendous gift with children. But here's what I learned about pre-K, and really I think our vision for Alabama should be for any child that would like to have pre-K to have access to it, voluntary if they want it. And here's why it matters. I asked kindergarten teachers as a representative, what can I do to help you as a kindergarten teacher? And they said, Will, we need pre-K for a lot of students. And I said, why? And they said, parents aren't doing their job anymore. We literally have kids coming into kindergarten that have never been read to. Wow. They don't understand, you know, just basic colors. They don't understand what an A is. And so those kids get behind and they stay behind and they end up dropping out statistically most of the time. So my vision, and we've done a great job in Alabama pre-K, let's continue the progress and make sure any child that needs it has access to it. And the third thing in education is get people job ready. I think it's probably the biggest crisis facing our state. Sure. And, you know, when I talk to business owners, they say, Will, we can't find quality people. And if we can find quality people, they can't pass a drug test. And so we've started a plan in Marshall County called Project Graduation. And the idea is this, same principle used in youth ministry. Everybody's got a God-given ability. You can align that with your passion. You can be successful in life. So whether somebody wants to be a welder, whether they want to go into construction, whether they want to go into accounting, let's figure out what that is, help them get the education level needed, the skill set needed, and the job, you know, skills needed, and go right into work where everybody in the state, when they graduate, whether it's high school, college, they're job ready and ready for the workforce.
You know, and that is a big thing that we have seen some effort in. where there has been a state and business partnership to promote a workforce.
That's right.
And so you talk about that. You come from a more rural community like I do.
Yeah.
And we've seen people fall on the wayside. How do we rescue those people and say, look, there are our two-year colleges, there are workforce training programs. I mean, do you have a thought about how we reach out to folks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing we found out in talking to these students, the same kids that are struggling in pre-K, they have the same parents when they get up in high school.
Yeah.
And so they don't understand the opportunities out there. So what we want to do is when a kid goes into 9th grade, we want to let them know, hey, find 3 areas that you're interested in. Let's actually get them out there and let them intern and learn about those areas. Then let's make sure when they graduate high school that they have the skill set and job training needed to go into those areas. And obviously if if they need to get further education, then that's part of it. But some of these jobs, they can go right from high school into a good paying job. A good example is in DeKalb County, part of my district. They have people that are getting trained to actually take apart these robots that mimic the robots in Volvo.
Right.
A lot of these students are making $100,000 now.
Wow.
In the Volvo plant, and that's what we've got to do is make sure the needs of education match the needs of industry.
Work skills, yeah. And it's crazy. I was just thinking about some of our friends who spend a fortune becoming lawyers who don't make $100,000, and these young people are learning to make $100 grand coming out of really a two-year college system or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And then the third point is just helping recruit industry. I want to help whoever Alabama selects as governor. I think it'll be Governor Ivey. Go out and recruit industry.
Sure.
And also help existing industry expand. A lot of times we don't talk about that, but I really want to dive into policies because we know most growth comes from existing industries in Alabama expanding. So what can we do to help those existing industries, Alabama businesses expand? Let's look at some policies on that.
You're a small business owner. You're also an avid outdoorsman.
Absolutely.
Tell us how that has affected your how you face politics, because a lot of folks that are here, they've been in politics so long that they really just think politically. You haven't been in it very long. How does your business background and outdoor background help you with that?
Yeah, I think from a business background, obviously I can just speak from experience. When I was here the last 4 years, the first thing all I heard about is, we're running on anti-tax and, come down here. And I think just having an accounting background, actually understanding numbers and having to run a business, when I came in, the first thing I wanted to do was dive into the numbers. The first thing the career politicians wanted to do was raise taxes. And actually you remember that? It was,
yeah, of course.
And so we weren't even trying to actually solve a problem, which is what you do in business. And I just think bringing the common sense business solutions, making sure you cut waste where there's waste, and then also just the other thing you do in business, you care about people and you care about your employees and make sure that they're doing a good job and incentivizing them to do better. And I just think those are things we need to bring to government that I certainly am going to do.
If people want to look further into your campaign or make contributions, where do they go?
Yeah, it's ainsworthforalabama.com. We also have a Facebook and Twitter page, and would love to have y'all's consideration. Our message is it's time for a new day in Alabama. I think it's too often in Alabama we've had career politicians that have been offering the same solutions for 30 years and nothing changes. So it's time for a new day in Alabama. We need your help.
Thank you, Will. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Great to be on the show. Thank you so much.
You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Our special guest today has been Will Ainsworth. He wants your vote for Lieutenant Governor. We'll be right back with more news and analysis.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation. 2/3 of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Charlie, normally we look at Will Ainsworth, great guy, by the way, And we go, very studious, earnest guy. He really has his facts and figures down. But he had this commercial this week that was absolutely fabulous.
He did. It was absolutely hilarious. Very different from some of the ads he's done in the past. So definitely a must-see.
Yeah. Susan, you know, this is going to be a tight race.
It is. It is going to be a tight race. You know, the money's really close. The name recognition is getting closer. Yeah, it's going to be a battle that night.
Jack, have you spent much time looking at that or thinking about it?
Yeah, I have, and I think, you know, Twinkle was leaps and bounds ahead of Will at one time, but I think he's closed the gap, and there's certain, I think the undecideds are going to, if they do go vote, when you have a well-known name like Twinkle out there, and there's so many undecideds, that probably bodes better for the challenger.
It usually does, doesn't it,
in a
Jack?
race like that, yeah.
Well, he's had a lot of different types of ads. This ad right there, though, it's cracked me up. I mean, I thought it was funny. And
It's so unwill is what's funny about it.
But it is
If you
really
know.
him. He's not that stiff. He's not a stiff guy or anything. He's very personal.
It's just that the people that don't know him don't expect that. And when you see this commercial, it's like, oh, that's the little imp I know that's funny.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
That's to get back at Twinkle for Little Lion Will.
well, bless her heart. I've never known Will to be a liar, but you know, and I like Twinkle a lot. I like Will a lot.
We're going to have her on.
We're having her on July 12th, right?
I believe so.
Yes.
And she's great. I mean, listen, the state's in good shape either way that
Yeah, I
goes.
agree with that.
Either way that goes. You know, we had a sad tragedy last Sunday when Attorney General Steve Marshall's wife took her own life. It was a very sad thing. We all reported on it in some variation. We were very, very careful, Susan. Very careful how we reported on this tragic loss. You know, she's a mother of a daughter who's 22, getting married soon. You know, Steve Marshall decided to have a press conference in which he publicly talked about some of the more tragic details of her life and death, and did blame the media for its reporting. And I did not see any unfair reporting, but the takeaway from that is still in mixed reviews.
It is, and Josh Moon had a really interesting article about that came out on, I think, Thursday of this week, saying what a difficult position as a media person it puts us all in. Most of us knew all the details about Mrs. Marshall's death by noon on Sunday. And there's a really delicate balance where you owe it to your readers, especially because this is a public official, to let them know something, a little bit about what happened. But your responsibility is not to give all the graphic details, which nobody did, because you want to respect the family, you want to respect, you know, their privacy, but still, again, there's a delicate balance there of what you have to report to your readers.
Well, nobody likes reporting on anyone dying. No one likes to report on anything like this. What we do have a responsibility is we did what we were supposed to do. We waited on the police report, which are very sterile documents, and they basically just give the who, what, when, where, and why. And unlike the national media, you know, recently when Kate Spade died or Anthony Bourdain, I mean, Charlie, we knew within hours how Miss Spade died.
Exactly. We had details on the suicide note, all different, like, very intimate details that, you know, we did know about, you know, Miss Marshall passing away, but like you said, we didn't release those. We were very respectful.
Well, and the thing is, and listen, that's the way I think it should be. But you know, Kate Spade was a celebrity. Mrs. Marshall was the wife of a public official, and you know, we went back and checked. We'd never reported a thing on her ever.
You remember in the old days, if someone in your family committed suicide, people didn't even know. They just died, and to his credit, he acknowledged what it was.
Yeah.
The only part that I was a little uncomfortable with is that I would have issued a written statement instead of putting my family through what they went through, because it was very emotional. And to his credit, he had the courage to discuss it. But on the other hand, it was pretty gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
And I would have handled it differently. But let me tell you, everybody deals with grief differently.
Yeah.
Very
and
true.
I've lost some very close friends to suicide, and it is absolutely a kick in the gut.
Well, one of the things, Jack, we had talked about, and I've written that for Monday, I hope it comes out Monday or Tuesday, is that we need, Alabama offers little to no mental health assistance. So why aren't we talking about mental health here? Why aren't we talking about and gun violence? More people murder themselves with guns than murder other people.
That's a frightening statistic, which we didn't know until we started researching this. And I think the best way always, of course, if you get handed lemons is to make lemonade. So maybe now this is the time for the state to focus on, okay, let's look at our mental health issues. Let's look at what we're doing, what we're not doing, and use this as a catalyst for that.
But see, this is something that should already be a focus. It shouldn't take a tragedy like this for our focus to go to mental illness, because think of all the people every day throughout Alabama committing suicide that we don't hear anything about. It just so happens that she was the wife of a public official and it becomes an issue.
But most of these politicians need a kick in the teeth to get them off of doing anything.
They do.
And this maybe, I hope, will be the kick in the teeth they need.
Well, I think the media did the job very well. We have gone back, we found no inappropriate reporting. Again, Jack, we're in a campaign season. There's no doubt that more will possibly come out of this, but we only got about a minute left. Troy King is in a very
puts
difficult
Troy in a precarious situation. He didn't ask for this. Of course, Steve didn't either. They're both great human beings, but it does put Troy in a situation, because to his credit, he suspended campaigning. But at some point,
he did immediately.
if he wants to be elected the next Attorney General, he's going to have to resume campaigning. And sometimes when you run against an incumbent with a record, you have to expose that record during the campaign. You have to give voters a reason not to re-elect someone. He was
he was
elected.
appointed. He's not in incumbent.
To fire him, basically.
Yeah. Well, and I'm really, quite frankly, I'm surprised that Mr. Marshall is even able to continue a campaign.
Me too.
If I lost this one right here, you have to pick up what little pieces of me in a basket, but everybody has their own choices. But
and grief is handled differently by everybody.
It is. Well, we wish the Marshall family God's blessings and that they have peace, and that's all we can pretty much say about that. Well, that kind of wraps up the show for this week.
It does.
But we had fun. Thanks everybody for coming.
Hey, we're getting our new studio
We had no
in the next
choice,
couple
but
of weeks. The new studio's coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's very exciting.
Because
Don't you
Josh
guys?
Moon writes a really ugly article and then disappears.
They are digging a big 10-foot tunnel outside under the studio, Jack, if you need some place to put Josh. Anyway, we're going to leave it right there. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.